Hi, everyone. Dr. Will here. And as we go into what I call the conference season, there's conferences all year, but we're going into the time where there's a lot of conferences and a lot of people give a lot of talks. You have the bunch of conferences coming up. I'll be speaking at several over the next few months. So I thought I'd do a quick little thing about what I've learned about how to start a speech, how to start a talk. And this is true everywhere, but it's especially true for us in our field. And there's a couple of ways you could screw up a talk at the beginning. Number one is when you start, you say, hi everyone, I'm Dr. Will Horton, and so you're kind of hesitant at starting. The second way you can really screw it up is go, okay, is the lights okay for everybody? Is everybody comfortable? How much time do I have? What's going on? Is the PowerPoint working? Right, that loses the audience. Those are signals right away that for your audience to go, time to check my whatever it is, Facebook, Twitter, answer an email, something like that. So because it lets them know that you're not sure. So how do you really start a speech? Well, first of all, you have to know your time. You have to be ready to start on time, and you have to be ready to go. And as an aside, one of my biggest pet peeves at conferences across the board is a speaker that won't give up the stage. We'll talk about that at the end, right? That's why they always say you got to be out of the room by 10 till so the next person can set up and get ready if it's a conference. I've been to some business type ones where they literally shut your mic off when they said your time is over, right? Your mic just goes off. Which I kind of like that because you're in control of your time, and it's better to end a minute or two early than go on a little bit too long. But anyway, so let's say you don't want to screw it up, so you don't want to start with the I'm and that or ask how the audience is doing, right? So there's a couple things you can do to start that's pretty cool. And I've heard other people talk about these. One is start with a question. What's the biggest question everyone here has in their practice? What's the number one issue you people have in your current daily lives as when it comes to weight loss, if you're giving a talk on that, right? So you're presenting a question about a problem, and then you can add in, well, today I'm going to give you a solution to that problem. That gets people's things going, right? Or you can make a statement that's rather shocking. Do you know why most hypnotists fail? Most hypnotists fail because they don't have the courage to follow through. Or I've said this one several times and heard other people. You know why most hypnotists fail? They don't believe in hypnosis, right? And it's like shock, right? If you have the balls to do it. The other thing you can do, and I'm trying to credit wherever I can, there was a guy who would talk about you state your truth and then show the proof. Let me show you why I'm one of the most successful people in this field of doing it this way. And here's my evidence, 1,000 satisfied clients, $1 million in the bank, whatever it is. But if you make a statement, so you're telling what you think is the truth, but then you have the proof, some kind of objective outside proof, right? That gets people going. So those are some things you can do that begins to grasp people attention. But now one of the advantages we all have, everybody pretty much watching this, whether you're speaking at a hypnosis and an NLP or a therapy conference, if you're known as a hypnotist, you have some advantages. Because if you're known as a hypnotist, they expect you somehow to do something hypnotic, at least subconsciously, right? So what if you start your thing as, once upon a time, there was a hypnotist just starting out. And he was just starting out and he didn't know what to do. And then you start a story. What happens when you say once upon a time, or that reminds me of a time? It automatically puts your brain into a different set, right? It does, as I would call it, an instant regression. You go back to childhood, right? Opens up a different neural pathway, as we would say. So if you start with a statement, and you can stack these together. You can make a general statement. Do you know there are more people alive today than has died in all of history? And people go, what? And then they start thinking about it. Some people probably pull out their cell phone, probably try to check it. But you can make all kinds of statements. But I like if you say, once upon a time, that reminds me of a story. And then you start a story, right? And you could tie this into if you've said a problem that they might have as a group, which ties into your talk. If you're at a conference, you're giving a talk on, how to build a practice, how to retain clients, and you tie it, well, you know, that reminds me of a story. And the story is of a young hypnotist who da 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 da. So you kind of tie it all together, right? And you know, there's some other things you can do. I like to always do the thing where every once in a while I'll start with, you know, I met a person who's an expert in this field, and they told me something that changed my life. It didn't just change my life, you know, it changed my business, or it changed my business and changed my life. But first of all, you're given an unnamed expert, an unnamed mentor, right? Which makes you more human. And you say, it's changed my life. And this is how it changed my life. You know, I had a mentor one time tell me that, you know, the problem with most hypnotists, they fall in love with their damn voice. They think people are paying to hear them talk when all they're paying for is result. Whether that result is losing weight or stopping smoking or improving a game or stress reduction, that's what they want. They don't care if you talk for 30 minutes eloquently or not, or if you could fix it in 15 minutes or 15 seconds. They want the result. That's what they're paying for. And I've used that one several times, and it's kind of fun. People will look at you funny, because there's always going to be some people in our world of hypnosis and NLP that is convinced people just want to hear them talk. Not really. They want a solution, right? So this all boils down to, at the beginning of a talk, if you can make an emotional connection with the group and make an emotional opening, that's what I was looking for, you know, so it grabs their attention. It grabs their attention. And then you can take them wherever you want them to go. Now, I can tell you the most powerful opening I've ever done. And I was doing stop smoking seminars. This goes back many, many years. But I was on the road doing those stop smoking seminars, Holiday Inns and all that all over the country. And I tested different kinds of openings, right? And what would work were those things like, you know what, that reminds me of a story. And I would just start talking. You know, how many people here have you know, you're here because you really can't quit smoking. Maybe you've tried several times. You know, a lot of us in that world will go, how many people here are skeptical about hypnosis? Raise your hands. Come on, good, because I love a skeptic. So you're kind of, you know, it's light. It engages the audience. You know, I was skeptical too. When I first heard this stuff, I wondered if it would work. And guess what? It did. It worked for me, or it worked for my family, whatever it was. So you're engaging. I tested all these. These were great. And, you know, since you're a hypnotist, that's what you're talking about. You know, a lot of times they tell you, you know, if you can be introduced, great, and all that. In some conferences, you can be introduced. And that has a good point and a bad point. First of all, if you're going to have an introduction, have it written out. Right? Have it laminated, and when you hand it to the person who's going to introduce you, ask them to read it in front of you. You might go, here and read this. They'll go, yeah, okay, I'm ready. And then they'll get up and go, today it's my joy to welcome, is it Will or William? Oh, Will Horton. You know, they haven't read it, right? And then if you're going to do that, and I used to do it a lot for stage shows or when I was doing corporate kind of things, I'd ask them to read it a couple of times and don't deviate from it, right? If you're going to do that. But again, most of the people you may be dealing with, they don't know how to introduce somebody. They don't have any goddamn stage presence or, you know, stage training. So, right? And more, a lot of our conferences, they don't set up people for you to introduce you anyway. You just kind of kick off on your own. Now, if this happens, there's two things you can do. One is just use it. Don't have anybody introduce you, and you just run with it the way we're talking about, right? Or, you know, at some conference, if there's somebody you know and trust, somebody that is a mentor of yours or someone you've mentored, have them introduce you. Of course, if you know a power player in that organization, in that group, in that world, ask them if they would introduce you so you can borrow some of their credibility. And of course, if you're there and you're having somebody introduce you, I remember one time, again, I go back a ways, I had Orman McGill introduce me at the Guild. And he got up and I said, take your time. So he told a little story, and people, of course, he's Orman. Everybody likes him. You know, he goes, and here's my dear friend, or he didn't say dear friend, but he goes, I'd like you to, you know, here's someone I've known for a few years now, yada, yada, Dr. Will Horton, come on. And I, you know, and I was, oh, thank you. And I did the, oh, come on, let's give a big round for Orman McGill. Isn't Orman McGill a great guy? Thank you, Orman. Thank you, Orman. we should all model him. So I'm, you know, because people loved him in general. And honestly, if you really didn't like him, you probably were never going to like me anyway. So, but I would anchor all those things, you know, my old Bill Clinton technique. Isn't Orman great? You know, he's been in this field since the 1930s. Thank you, Orman. Thank you, Orman. Let's give another round of applause. Thank you, Orman. So you're taking all that. So if you're going to have somebody introduce you, do it that way. Have somebody you trust, maybe sketch it out for them, you know, have them tell a story. It's a lot of fun. But if you have to just hit the ground running, which happens a lot, do one of these things about, you know, be ready to start, right? And once you start, just start plowing through it. You know, if they give you a go time, if the conference is recording it, sometimes they'll give you the go if they're videoing, or they're just taping, so you could start whenever you want. But once you start and don't, you know, be ready to go. Have your first, I always say, have your first few plays sketched out, as they would say, so you're ready to go. You know, start with your story, start with something, get people involved with you. But again, one of the most powerful things I would do at the Stop Smoking seminar, again, I'd start with, how many people are skeptical? Good, I like a skeptic. You know why? You're going to be my biggest fan. I'd give a hypnotic command. You know why? You're going to end up being my biggest fan when this works for you, and I know it will. Now, and then I did this. I would tell everybody, take a deep breath, close your eyes. Now, again, they're in a hypnosis seminar. It's for Stop Smoking. Now, we could do this at a conference. I've done it at psych conferences, right? Take a deep breath, close your eyes. And you can look around the room. Let's say there's, pick a number, 20 people in a room. It's a small room. Probably 15 are going to follow through without blinking. They'll just go, okay, they'll close their eyes, fine. And then you can kind of track. It's always fun, you know, which ones won't close their eyes. You know, I'd look around the room, go, no, take a deep breath, close your eyes. There's somebody sitting over there that didn't. I said, come on, take a deep breath, close your eyes. I would do it a couple times. Now, in the Stop Smoking world, the person that, if I asked 2 or 3 times to go ahead and close their eyes, this was the person that generally at the end would want their money back. They would be disruptive. Usually I'd throw them out of the room before we got started. But at a conference, I just kind of note it, right? People look around. So I go, okay, take a deep breath, close your eyes. Now, with your eyes closed, I want you to just think about, and then I would just, now I know what I was doing was accessing a neuroplasticity pathway. I'd say, think about a seminar you went to that really changed your life, that you went, wow, this was so great. So imagine that. What was it? You know, and what was it? The style of the teacher? Was it the information? Was it a combination? You know, now think about, maybe you've been to a seminar or conference or a class where, you know, you love the information. Maybe you didn't like the teacher too much, but you got a lot out of the information. Have you ever been to a talk where you really liked the trainer? Maybe not the, you know, what they talked really didn't impact you at the time, but you really liked it. Now, what you've done is you've done as my friend Scott McFall would say, I've just done a forced choice. You know, either you love the trainer and what they said, or you like the message, you don't necessarily like the trainer, or you like the trainer, you didn't necessarily like the message. You pretty much just laid it out. So their brains opened up these different pathways, as we know now, and you've already had that experience. So now your brain is open, right? They don't know that sitting there. They just go, okay, and they think about each one of those scenarios. And then I usually would say, now just think about somebody you respect and admire. Could have been a mentor, a coach, a teacher, somebody from your past. Maybe it's a mythical figure that you know, or someone from the history that you just love them and you really respect and admire them. Good. Now you've known about trainers and classes you've enjoyed. Now you think about this person you respect and admire. Now open your eyes. Good. Now look up here. Good. Now that we're all on the same wavelength, same get going. And then I would start into, and I would usually go, you know, someone once told me something that changed my life. And it changed and I would tie it into whatever the topic is, right? That whatever, if business building, training, whatever it is, you could tie it into that, right? And then, you know, I made it emotional, right? And so then you've got the audience, right? And then, of course, if you've taken good trainers training, which they teach you, you know, how to use the stage anchoring and how to do this, how to play your audience, you know, how to set the stage and how to do things. One of the things I always say, I was kind of lucky coming from the theatrical world when I became a trainer, is I understood that, you know, a play has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? And within that play, each scene has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? So, you know, let's say you're in a play and you've only in one scene, People say, I'm only in one scene. But for you, that's your entire world right then. It has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end. So if you kind of take that mindset into when you're giving a talk, you know, you got the beginning, you got the middle, you got the end. Like, you know, if you're doing a multi-day training, it breaks down into maybe morning, afternoon, or block 1, block 2 in the morning, block 3, block 4 in the afternoon. However you do it, just realize you're constantly going up and down. And each little section has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And since we're going into conference season where you give a lot of 1 and 2 hour talks, that's pretty much a nice little block, has a beginning, has a middle, has an end. But it's very important, if you're going to steal from the theatrical world, to have a strong beginning. That's why I say you got to hook them at the beginning. Movies have changed in our lifetimes, those of us that are more mature, because movies start fast. You know, it really started with Star Wars. You know, the movie opens with an epic space battle. You don't even know who these people are at the beginning, but all of a sudden you're like, what's going on? And then all this stuff's happening. It pulls you in. You know, 50 years ago, or 100 years ago, they'd make a movie and it would start and it would have a nice build up and you get to know the character. We don't have the attention span anymore. It's been said the average attention span is 8 to 15 seconds at the beginning, right? Then if you hook them, then it's going to be several minutes, right? And then every few minutes, your brain checks out. It's just the way your brain works. But if you realize that, then you want to hook them at the beginning with something out of the ordinary, something different. You know, lately at conferences, because lately some of the conferences kind of laid back, I always have my music on, cranked up real loud. You know, if they have the speakers in the room, I'll just turn it on my phone, put my lapel mic or whatever the mic I'm going to speak into next to the phone so it's blasting out. Right? Why? It's different. You know, as we'd say, it's a pattern interrupt. People are going, well, that's different. Why is he doing that? Well, come in and see, you know. And it's just kind of fun. So start, you know, be willing to show your proof, show your truth, and then show the proof of why you think it's true. Make a bold statement. You know why most hypnotists fail? They don't believe in hypnosis. And then go with that. And I've done that one a few times to get people to go, what do you mean? Well, how many times have you been there? People go, well, I do creative visualization, or I do meditation, or I do whatever it is. So I would always say, so you don't believe in hypnosis, right? So it gets people in a different state. And sometimes you have to have the guts to be a little bit different. You know, it's like the old rule of thumb: if everybody likes you, if you're going after everybody liking you, you probably lose a lot of people that are going to love you, and a lot of people are going to respect you. So anyway, that's just so maybe make a shocking fact, get a fact. You know what's interesting? There's a big myth about NLP, and then you state what you think is a myth. And if you have some proof behind it, you could go, interesting, right? You know what I always wondered about NLP? I've done this one lately. If you're going to give a talk, it's kind of interesting, kind of ballsy. I always wondered about NLP. The founders of NLP said they hung around a lot with Milton Erickson. Milton Erickson did not train people who were not licensed in the mental health field, doctors or psychologists. In fact, in most of his lifetime, he did not even want to train psychologists. He only wanted to train medical doctors. He didn't want to train social workers. So again, you know, NLP got its start by guys that came from the outside. So again, if Milton Erickson had this rule that he followed, that he would not train you unless you had this theoretical background and some kind of license, I wonder how they got trained. Something to think about. And then I would go off. And then, you know, that's if you're going to challenge some of the assumptions of NLP. There's all this wonderful stuff you could do, but start fast. You know, have your thing ready, have it outlined, you know, have your bullet points in your head, you know, make sure if you are going to use a PowerPoint or anything, test all that before, you know, so you're not cutting into time. I've been to a lot of trainers trainings where I did one for a corporation, and one of the things they would have their trainers do is you shut their PowerPoint off about 5 minutes into their talk to see how they would handle it. Right? Because you only got an hour talk, your PowerPoint, the bulb goes out, or something happens. You don't have your PowerPoint. Can you just keep going? Right? because you can't stop. You want to, it's like, boom, you got to keep going. So anyway, there's all this fun stuff you can do. I just want to do this with the conference stuff. And I said, again, I was going to close with, if you're going to these conferences and you're giving talks, please, please respect other people's time. Just because you're on a roll and you think your audience loves you and you're supposed to end at a quarter till, so the next person can come up and get ready and start on the hour, don't go till 2 minutes before and make the other person back up, right? That's unprofessional, and it's passive aggressive bullshit. And I've seen it at conferences. And if you run into somebody trained by me or certain other people, they're just going to come up, and about 10 till, they're just going to start setting shit up, moving your stuff off to the side, interrupting you. And if they say, well, I'm almost done. No, you were done 5 minutes ago. And again, so let's say you have an audience there, and yeah, some of the people are loving what they're saying, but some of the people then they'll become cognizant of the time and go, wow, that's kind of a dick move. You're cutting into, this lady's time, right? It makes you, it may, in the long run, I think it makes you look bad. So, respect other people's time. I know it's easy to get carried away, right? But we do have these wonderful things. You can set up the timing. You can ask somebody in the front. Most conferences give you someone that keeps track of time, but ask someone in the front to keep track so you can keep going. So anyway, that's just a quick shout out because I'm teaching at the International Medical and Dental International Association of Counselors and Therapists in a couple weeks. Another International Association of Hypnotherapy in Tampa, Florida, toward the end of the month. Then, of course, they have the National Guild of Hypnotists, where this year I will be doing the basic NLP class, all new for 2019, with a lot of neuroplasticity stuff. But I'm doing it for $19.94 prices because it's a 25th year of teaching it at that conference in that format. So I'm going to do, bring back some old stuff, at least for the price, so people can come and have some fun. And then, of course, I'm speaking at Hypno Thoughts at a couple weeks after that in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. So you have all these conferences coming up. I'll see a lot of you at these conferences. I just wanted to do this thing because a lot of people are giving speeches, and I think we need to remember this. So everyone have a great time, and I'll see you as we trudge the road to destiny, and may the sun be in your face and the wind at your back. Have a great day.